I had the time of my life with you this summer. I don't know what happens to us from here. I do know one thing. I love you.
I had the time of my life, and I owe it all to you.
I just don't get, like, just why? Just why? Hi, welcome back to the second episode of Movie Madness Mondays. Today I will be reviewing Dirty Dancing 2017. I am a huge Dirty Dancing fan, like the biggest. I've been watching it since I was 1 year old. I actually watched it so much that my parents bought me the video at the time for my second birthday. It was an 18s at the time, so my parents are pretty awesome and I love Dirty Dancing. And because I love Dirty Dancing so much, I was so reluctant to watch the new remake because, as I've said in my previous video, I don't generally like remakes. I don't like reboots. I think they're unnecessary, and I really thought it's unnecessary for Dirty Dancing because it is a great timeless standalone movie that doesn't need any adjustments whatsoever. So I really wasn't interested in watching it. But then I thought I'd give it a go and just see what they have done with it. Before I start, I just want to say that this video will contain spoilers. So if you have not seen the latest Dirty Dancing movie and you do want to see it for yourself, please don't watch this video until after you have watched it because it will contain spoilers. Now that I've cleared that up, we can get into the movie review. So the first thing I noticed about the movie was that they were trying to push a lot of feminist ideology into the first few minutes. It did continue throughout the movie, but I did notice it was a lot of, women are awesome and women can do this and women can do that and we shouldn't be fitting into these ideals of men and all that, which I'm not saying I'm against it, but it just seems it was a bit too much in your face. It was not subtle at all. It was just women need rights. It just for me, it didn't fit with the movie. I thought it was unnecessary. And yes, a few subtle hints or, maybe one general statement about it would have been fine, but it did continue to happen throughout the movie. For example, with Neil, Mr. Kellerman's grandson, he said something, and I quote, "A woman can really do anything she wants. I truly believe that." And it just seemed, it came out of nowhere. She was just saying that she wanted to be a surgeon, and he said, "Yeah, I believe that you can do it." And it just seemed like, this is too much. He could have just said, "Oh, that's really interesting. I haven't heard of many women surgeons, but good for you for going for that," kind of thing, rather than saying, "I believe in women's rights, yay!" So I did notice that a lot of the shots were quite similar to the ones from the original movie. So that's obviously trying to reconnect with the old one and make it feel like it's the same movie, which makes me think, why make a new one then if you're going to take the similar shots? For example, at the start of the movie where Baby's in the car and they're all going to Kellerman's and she comes and gives him a hug from behind. It's a similar shot from in the original movie, and I just thought, well, what's the point? If you're going to be doing a remake or a reboot, would you not just come up with your own shots? I don't know, that was just my opinion. I just thought they were just trying to make it seem like the old one, but why make a new one if you want to make it like the old one? It just makes no sense to me. One thing I did notice from very early on is they were trying to push Marjorie as a character, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing at all, because in the original you will notice that she is pretty much non-existent. She's there just to be, she's the mother figure of it, but she doesn't have any significant lines. They don't really tell her anything about what's going on with with baby or with Jake. She's kind of just nothing. And I always found it funny in the original how, if you notice it now when you watch it, like it's like no one listens to her or no one really divulges anything to her. She's just there as the mother. So with the new movie, they were trying to make her a bit more central to the family, which is good. That's fine. But I also thought it was unnecessary. Her and Jake have a little storyline, which I'll go into later on in the video. But I just thought it was unnecessary. I don't mind her being a bit more active in the girls' lives. That's quite nice. I do quite like the relationship, but I just thought the relationship with Jake and Marge was a bit unnecessary, and it kind of took away from what the story was really about. And then there's Neil Kellerman. I mean, no one likes Neil anyway, even in the original. He's a loser, he's awkward, no one likes him. So it's no different in this new one. But I think the actor was like too much like, hey guys, my name is Neil, and his voice really did my head in, and I didn't believe him as a character. At least the original Neil was a bit like, but like it was believable. It was like, it wasn't too much. I felt like Neil was just, it's kind of like in those cheesy old movies, like the 1960s or something, and like, golly gee guys, it just didn't really fit, and it was a bit too much. Just no. And then there's Baby. So in the new version of Dirty Dancing, I found Baby to be too fake and too happy. It just seemed like it wasn't natural. It's kind of like when you go to a Broadway show and the way they act in that. It's very theatrical, and they talk different, like, oh my god, Johnny, it's just kind of, they have to do it that way on the stage, and that's fine, but it just didn't fit with the movie, I felt. A lot of the times it was okay, but sometimes it was too much, and it was just, no, you just act normally. You're not always this happy, you're not always this like pleasant. If you look at the original Baby, she was just normal. She's in her teens, so she's not always happy, she was just normal. So I found that very hard to like her as a character because of the way that she acted and talked. And then there is Johnny. The way they introduced him wasn't like a big build-up. There was no excitement with Johnny, I don't feel. I still get a bit of woo when I see Patrick Swayze being introduced into the movie of the original. But with this guy, there was nothing. There was not even like a little whoop, there he is, there's Johnny. It's just like, oh, okay, there he is. That's fine. Maybe it's because I'm just so used to Patrick Swayze and nothing can ever compare to him. But it's just, there was no build up. There was just like, there's Johnny, and his dancing wasn't even that great. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, the dancing wasn't great. And it's just, there was nothing. There was just nothing. So one thing they did change about this movie with their reboot is they made it into a musical, which, I mean, I love musicals, but it doesn't fit with Dirty Dancing. It is not about, yes, it's about the music, but it's not about the lyrics. It's about the beat. It's about the dancing. It just doesn't fit, especially because a lot of the music is very, very upbeat and happy. It's not Grease, guys. It's Dirty Dancing. It's not supposed to be like a particularly happy movie. It kind of made a joke out of the movie, and the music is so good in Dirty Dancing that they were kind of just ruining the songs by making it, making their own changes to it, making it a bit more upbeat, adding stuff. It just did not fit. They also added songs, and some of them just seemed very pointless. There was one where Vivienne Westwood and Johnny are dancing to Fever, and it just, I was kind of looking at it going, what's the point of this? You know, I think it's supposed to be because, you know, Jake was uncomfortable by the vulgarness of it, but it wasn't that bad. Also, with Baby and Penny, she's giving her a dance lesson, Penny obviously, and then they just sing a song about shaking it and then walk off and don't actually do the dance routine. What was the point in that? Yeah, I can see is about her loosening up a bit, but she never really does. She seems very stiff and not very flexible and be able to move her body. She just seemed awkward, and I felt really awkward watching it, especially when she'd be like let back. It just looked like she was scared she was going to fall, and it was too stiff. It just wasn't great. I found a lot of the dancing quite difficult to watch because it wasn't really Cuban. It wasn't salsa. They did add some elements to it, but it wasn't Dirty Dancing. It was mostly them doing things on their own rather than dancing together. I was sitting there going, what is this? I just wasn't impressed by any of the dancing. And I love the dancing in like Dirty Dancing. I want to learn how to dance like that. But in the new one, it's kind of like, I actually probably could do that. It's not that hard. It's not that impressive. Also, why was Baby becoming a doctor instead of going into the Peace Corps? Why did they change that part of the story? So she'd be a bit more like her dad? We already know that they have like a strong relationship and she looks up to him. Why is it necessary for her to want to become a surgeon? I don't get it. I mean, they kept a lot of things the same in the movie. Why change that? It's just unnecessary. Pointless. So as you know, with the original movie, Baby is the main character, and that is what everyone calls her, Baby. So when she does reveal to Johnny what her name is, it's kind of a bit of an impact there. It's showing how they are getting so comfortable with each other. It's quite nice when he asks her and she tells him, and it's a really nice moment. In this movie, Johnny asks her what her name is when she goes to the staff quarters with the watermelon, and she says Baby. Then in a couple of scenes later, when Penny asks what her name is, she says it's Francis. Just like, oh, it's Francis. Why would you tell a guy who you find quite attractive that your name is Baby, making you look and feel and act like a baby, and then just tell some random other stranger that it's Francis? It took away from her name, I think. I think it's an important thing that her name is Baby in this movie. So when she reveals her name is Francis, a very grown-up name, it's supposed to be kind of an impact, and they kind of just like, oh yeah, it's Francis. It does not really go, and it kind of takes away from the name. It's a big part of the movie. I think a better part of the movie to reveal her name is when her dad is disappointed at her for giving Johnny and Penny money for the abortion, which is illegal at that time, and they're walking back to the cabin, and she says, I'm not a baby anymore. And then he says, you're right, go home, Francis, or something like that. But he says his name, Francis. I think that would have been a better place to reveal her name, because he's recognized her as an adult now, making her own decisions and saying, okay, Francis. I think it would have been a better impact on the story if he had just said, okay, Francis, and walked off from her, because she's just stated that she's not a baby anymore. So he identifies her by her grown-up name. It would have been a lot better for the story rather than her just, saying it to Penny for no reason. She doesn't know this person, but she says, oh yeah, my name's Francis. What? The new Johnny Castle in the 2017 Dirty Dancing movie, I just couldn't get into. I didn't think the acting was hugely great for his character. I also felt like he was quite angsty and quite, I've got so much pain. Ugh. And it's not who Johnny is. Yes, he's had like a terrible upbringing, but he kind of just gets on with it. He doesn't really, yes, okay, he goes into details of his past and how he was broke. But I think Patrick Swayze did it in a very mature way rather than it seemed like the new Johnny is kind of just like a teenager, and I can't really connect with him or with their relationship. I think they painted him very badly and he was not likable. Even when he does become nicer, because they painted him so badly, I just couldn't like the character. He was very mean and angry with Baby a lot of the time, and I just couldn't really get to liking him. He wasn't Patrick Swayze, angsty teen. That's what I thought, and I just couldn't get into it. So what I also thought is, okay, they're making this movie into a musical. They're doing something different with it. Yes, it's pretty much the same story, but they decided to make it into a musical. I was like, okay, this could be terrible, but at least they're doing something different with it. I found that it wasn't really much of a musical either. Yes, there were some songs where they were singing, but it wasn't musical. It's hard to describe. Yes, they were singing to each other, but it wasn't big showcase kind of musical, and it only kind of, for some songs, it was like the same movie, but then sometimes they sang the songs and sometimes they sang it in the background but not actually sing it in the scene. If you're gonna make a musical, why not just go the full works and do big showstopper kind of like scenes where everyone's like dancing around and, you know, it switches to a different scene. Why not go the full hog rather than just doing the same movie but just sometimes kind of into a musical? I just didn't see the point. If you're gonna make a musical, just fucking make a musical. They painted Jake as kind of a bad guy, very judgmental father, who doesn't pay any attention to his wife and only cares about Baby's intelligence and her success. And I feel like, although, yeah, Jake is some of those things in the original, he's not that bad of a guy. He is a typical father in the 1960s who just cares about what's right, and he wants to bring his family up right, the best way he knows it. I feel they made him too unlikable, and I just didn't like that it all centered around him and his views on Baby and his wife. Like, I didn't see the point of them thinking about divorce and, you know, the fact that they're not having sex. I just didn't see the point in that and how it would have added to the story. The story wasn't about them. It was, yes, about her father and Baby, but not about the relationship between the parents. They're supposed to be the epitome of like a wholesome family, and then Baby is kind of like the rebel who goes off with Johnny. It just seems like the whole point of the movie was that they were a wholesome, traditional family, and Baby was kind of breaking away from that. But in this version, it's just like, no, they all want to break away from this. They want to break away from Jake. Again, I think it's pushing the feminist thing a bit too much. It just seemed a bit too real and it just didn't fit, I don't think. And I was really bored during all the conversations with Marge and Jake. It just didn't feel right. So I realised in the original Dirty Dancing movie, some of the music didn't seem very fitting of its time. It could have been argued that it sounded from a bit later in the years that the music was from, but I think it did fit. But I did feel in the new movie, the She's Like the Wind cover especially. What? That was definitely not from the 1960s. It sounded too like modern, like not 80s modern, like this year modern, or, you know, maybe in the last 10 years. It just didn't seem fitting, and it took away from the emotional scene of him leaving. It just completely ruined it, and I just don't understand why they went so far out with that song. It just did not sound right. I could not take the scene seriously. I was quite annoyed, actually. Nobody puts Baby in the corner. For one, I do not believe that line should have been in the movie. Only Patrick Swayze can say that. That is his line. And she wasn't even in a corner. She wasn't even in a corner. It was in a big open room. She was not even against a wall. She was just in between her parents. But anyway, let's get past that bit. If he must say it, if there was no way of avoiding that, I think he could have done it a lot better. Like I said, I didn't think he was a great actor, and there was just no impact when he said it. Nobody puts baby in the corner. It was kind of like that. Just leave it to the Swayze. I was also very disappointed with the final dance. I felt that everything was moving too fast. Also, they weren't really dancing together a lot. They were kind of doing their own kind of moves, and it wasn't, as I said before, it wasn't Cuban, it wasn't salsa, it wasn't as flowy, it wasn't as beautiful as the original. There was no dramatic effect. I was just disappointed, really, and especially when Jake starts singing to Marge. No! What? I felt like, you know, when you have a table in front of you filled with crap and you just want to toss it up. I'm like, I'm done with this. And then comes the ending. I think the original ended perfectly. You know, they were still dancing, they were still together. Yes, we weren't sure what was going to happen after, you know, baby leaves Kellerman's. It was all up in the air, but it didn't matter because it ended on a note where it was like they're together and they're happy and everyone approves. Yay. In this new movie, Baby has finished watching the Broadway production of Dirty Dancing. Now you assume she's going to watch it as his wife and seeing their life put out on the stage, and it's very beautiful. No. She hasn't seen him in years, because they did not end up together. Oh, what? No, you can't remake the movie and then not put Baby and Johnny together. She has a kid with some other guy who looks like a douche, by the way. What was the point in remaking that movie just to ruin it? I really hate it when movies do that and you expect them to end up together and they don't, and it's because not all loves last, but they still mean something. And I get the message, I do, but it's Dirty Dancing. You can't just change the ending like that. Okay, yes, we don't know what happened in the original after it ended. Obviously nothing, because it's a movie. It ruined the movie. I mean, not that I was really enjoying it anyway, but it seemed pointless. I don't understand why you would do that. Overall, I just didn't enjoy the movie. I didn't think the dancing was overly impressive. I felt it was unnecessary to make it into a musical, since they didn't really make it into a musical. They kind of half made it into a musical. I didn't see the point in doing that. They used a lot of the same lines and shots. I don't understand. If you're making a remake or a reboot, why use similar shots and lines? Why not just make it your own? I just didn't see the point in that. Overall, I thought the acting was very poor. It was difficult to connect with the movie when I felt I couldn't believe in the characters. Like I have said before, I am not a big fan of remakes and reboots, so I knew going in I was not going to enjoy this movie, and maybe that is my downfall, because I went in with a particular mindset that I wasn't going to enjoy it, and therefore it is hard to change your mind when you have it already built in that you're not going to like it. But being a Dirty Dancing mega fan, no matter what mindset I was going to go in with, I was never going to enjoy it. Dirty Dancing, you just can't touch it. I would love to hear what your opinions about this movie was. If you enjoyed it or if you didn't enjoy it, please pop it down in the comment section and I'll have a read through. Maybe there's some things that I missed, or maybe things that I interpreted wrong that you can enlighten me on, because I feel that I had a very close-minded outlook of the movie because of my love for the original. So please do leave some comments and maybe I'll see it in a different light. Please give my video a wee thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe to my channel. I make videos every week, and until next time, bye.